please put your hands together for Rachel Wheeley.
Hello. Hello. Hey, hi. I'm Rachel Wheeley. I am a short adult. In case any of you are wondering why there's a particularly confident child on the stage, that's what that's all about. I am a comedian. Before I was a comedian, I was I worked for a broadcasting corporation, is all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say which one. It's not important. It's a British one, that's all I'm saying. And it's an amazing organisation to work for. I just want to tell you quickly how it started. The BBC started in... Oh no, I said it. That's good, let's get that out of the way. 1922, the Post Office gave Marconi a licence to do some experimental radio broadcasting, and within about a month, a load of companies were like, give us a licence to do experimental radio broadcasting, and the Post Office went, no, not going to do that, we can't be asked. So what you have to do is you have to get together, you have to form a single company or a group of companies and take responsibility for British broadcasting. And so Marconi got together with Western Electric and General Electric, and they formed the British Broadcasting Company. And by November that year, they were doing regular broadcasts from this building, the Institute of Electrical Engineering on Savoy Hill. And they did not have a licence to do so. So they got their licence in January of the next year, and it is very reassuring to me to learn that the BBC, like all great radio stations, started off as a pirate. So that's good, isn't it? My job when I worked for the Broadcasting Corporation was I was a studio director on the Today programme. Anybody know the Today programme? Yeah. I thought you would. I thought, these people know the Today programme, of course they do. If you don't know the Today programme, it is a morning news show for people who like to wake up both sad and angry. Some people wake up happy and they don't like it. And this show puts that to rights. That's what I did for 10 years of my life. Here I am, trying to persuade John Humphrys and Sarah Montague to obey my very clear instructions. They did not, sadly. But the very important thing that I want to talk to you about, the best thing about the Today Show, is the way that it starts. It starts at 5:59:55 on weekdays. And I know I can't get that, I can't just say every day, because you guys will be like, excuse me, it doesn't start then at the weekends. Starts at like 59:55 on weekdays, and it starts with this noise. One very small woo. That is the Greenwich Time Signal, or as it's affectionately known around Broadcasting House, the pips. And it strikes fear into my heart even now, 3 years after leaving the BBC, because what that noise meant when I used to work there, and as you can see, I am wearing the same jumper, so that tells you how the comedy's going, doesn't it? And basically what it means is you're strapped then into the flagship news programme of the BBC for 3 hours with no hope of a wee until call for the day. It's a horrible situation to be in, and it's also still extremely early in the morning. But the difficult thing about the pips, if you're a presenter, is that you've got to talk up to them. They are generated in the basement of Broadcasting House. The fader is opened, and they are coming at 5 seconds to the hour, whether you stop talking or not. They're gonna spill onto the radio, and if you keep talking, you're going to talk over them, and that is known as crashing the pips. Michelle Hussein started working on the Today programme very recently and did something which she called, and I thought this was adorable, kissing the pips. Which is where you talk up to them and you don't quite get it right, but you haven't quite crashed them, and so it's basically fine. Jim Nocty did unspeakable things to those pips. I don't even want to talk about it, if I'm honest. Some facts for you about the Greenwich Time Signal. They were started in 1924, generated by the BBC itself from 1990 in the basement, and only the BBC could write this sentence. Their utility in calibration is diminishing as digital broadcasting entails time lags. Thank you, BBC, for that very clear explanation of that. If you'd like a visual representation of your pips, and I know that you would, here it is. There are 6 of them. We have to imagine here that we're doing the 8 a.m. Radio broadcast, so they start at 5 seconds to the hour, 7:59:55, and there are 5 of them all the way up to the hour, and then you have a long one which has been half a second long since 1972. More on that later. The 5 leading up to that half-second pip are a tenth of a second long. They are all 1 kilohertz in frequency, which is a B natural, obviously. If you are setting your watch or your clock with the pips, the point at which the hour actually changes is here, or if you're listening on a digital radio, here. Everybody got that? Good stuff. But what about analog lag, Rachel? What about analog lag? I'm glad you asked me that. So you're correct to realise that the BBC pips are generated in the basement of Broadcasting House. It takes time for that signal to get to the transmitter at, say, I don't know, Droitwich. That's the transmitter at Droitwich. Some people like that sort of thing. And then it's got to get from the transmitter to your radio. So because there's a small amount of time that takes to happen, the BBC actually generate the pips 1,000th of a second early. I know, right? Now, if you're standing 10 feet away from your radio in your kitchen, the sound waves slow down what I like to call a fuck of a lot, and you're going to get them 100th of a second later than that anyway, so it's all completely irrelevant, but they're trying, this is the point. Now, what about leap seconds? Yes. This is probably the most exciting thing that I discovered while I was working at the BBC, is the existence of leap seconds, because we were talking, actually, Matt was talking earlier about how in 1970 everybody sort of like went, let's all use the same time, shall we? That would be better. And so they decided they were going to basically use atomic time, because that is very sort of accurate and great, and they're going to measure it and sort of make it work with Greenwich Mean Time, and that'll be totally fine. But it's not totally fine, because the Earth's rotation is slowing down. Don't want to panic, you guys. You didn't seem panicked about the £1 trillion debt thing, so I just really chill. No, the Earth's rotation is slowing down. So I looked this up. Today is not 24 hours long. Today is 24 hours, 0 minutes. I haven't put 0 seconds, but 0 seconds, and 0.0011024 milliseconds. Now, if that continues, and it is continuing, we end up with some time left over. And so what has to happen, and the guys who got together in 1970 were like, we're not going to add random amounts of time into the calendar, that would be mad. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we add 1 second in at once. So what happens is an international conglomerate called the International Earth Rotation Society tells us 6 months in advance when a leap second is needed, and it is inserted into the calendar on the 31st of December or the 30th of June, no idea why. And it's done via the pips. It is demonstrated by the pips. People stay up for this shit, right? There have been 27 since the time that they decided to do this. And what happens is you have not 6 pips, but 7 pips. Now, imagine the scene in 1970. They've decided that they're going to do the 7 pips, but all the pips are the same length. They're all a tenth of a second long. There was panic, somewhat small panic in the room, where they just went, but how will we know when that 6th pip happens, whether it is a normal pip or a leap pip? And that is the point at which they decided to make the last pip half a second long, and that's why the last pip is half a second long. Yes. Now, unfortunately, it's all over the shop, though, because Greenwich don't even really know where noon is, because noon moves by 16 minutes a year, in the year, and so actually it's all bollocks. And so there was a colloquium colloquium, which was designed to decide whether we should still have leap pits in 2003. Now, I know you're all on the edge of your seats about what happened about that, and I can reveal to you that what happened at that 2003 colloquium is that they decided to defer the decision until It's like Brexit all over again. I cannot deal with it. Guys, you can follow the Pips on Twitter, at BBC_GTS. You can follow me on Twitter, at Rachel Wheeley, and I have a podcast, as Matt mentioned, about redesigning the human body. Helen Arney's been on it. It's bloody marvellous. Look that up, and thank you very much indeed for having me. Cheers.